Hello, everyone. Welcome to 8 Things Job Seekers Need to Know Before Applying to a Company. And this is brought to you by Work It Daily and Comparably. So today I'm very excited to work through some strategy in terms of how to research companies when you're starting your job search and also how to stand out in your job search. But I'm really going to focus on how you can use Comparably to research and understand what types of companies are out there and which ones you should be pursuing. So it's going to be a lot of great information. It's going to be a lot of information in general, and I'm excited to go through today. So my name is Ariella Coombs. I am a career coach at Work It Daily, and Work It Daily is a virtual career coaching service, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But like I said, today for the next hour, I'm going to be walking you through what you need to be thinking about when you first start your job search, or even if you're in the middle of a job search and it's just not working for you, how you can change up your strategy and leverage great tools like Comparably in order to find amazing opportunities with amazing companies so you can really stand out and get the opportunities that you deserve. So it's going to be a lot of information. I'm going to show you some proven job search strategies that are going to help you stand out and land those incredible opportunities. But before I get started, I did just want to share a few reminders here. So first off, if you're joining live, please introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're from. Also, I'll be taking questions at the end of today's session if you need more clarification on something or just have a general job search question. I'm happy to answer that for you. But when you do ask a question, ask it in the chat, but just put question in all caps so that way we can go and find it a lot easier. Sometimes the chat gets a little crazy, so we want to make sure that we get your questions answered during today's session. The other thing is make sure that you download the handbook that was included in this free webinar today. So that way you can follow along, take notes, and really stay on track. And I also want to remind you that you do have access to this recording for 7 days after this event. So if you want to go back and rewatch it, you have 7 days to do so. Okay, so I think that's all I have for housekeeping. I'm excited to dive in. But before I do that, I'm just going to share a little bit more about myself and my qualifications. So you know that, I'm not just anybody off the street sharing these strategies with you. So my name is Ariella Coombs, like I mentioned, and I have been working for Work It Daily for about 9 years now, and I have been in the coaching side of the business for about 7. So I've been coaching clients. I've coached hundreds of clients. I've worked with thousands of people with Work It Daily and really help them build their strategies and define their brand so that way they can stand out in their job search and ultimately find those opportunities and land those opportunities that they really want and deserve. So this is a passion of mine. I love working with clients. I love keeping up to date with the latest and greatest strategies and techniques, and also leveraging marketing and branding in order to help you as the job seeker learn how to stand out in your job search, because this is something that we were never taught in school. We never really got to learn how to look for a job, even though it's something that everybody has to do. And even worse, we never learned how to brand ourselves to stand out against everybody else who's going for those jobs, especially those really competitive ones. And so that's why Work It Daily exists, and that's why I'm passionate about doing this type of work and doing these types of webinars like I'm doing today for you. So excited to dive in here. So I know we have a lot to cover, so let's get started. So just to give you some background on what's going on right now, obviously we've had a really tough past year, both on the job seeker side and on the company side. So both sides have been really trying to figure out how we can, bring back employees, bring back incredible talent, and job seekers are trying to figure out how you can essentially stand out with all the other people who were impacted by the pandemic in the past year, maybe laid off, maybe had to, readjust their roles, things like that. So we're slowly returning to a new normal. And more companies are starting to hire, which is very exciting. And, with that, there's going to be a lot more competition for these opportunities because so many people were impacted, their jobs were impacted in the last year. So in order to stand out for these opportunities, you have to be prepared, you have to be polished, and you have to have a solid game plan. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for you to earn those opportunities and stand out among the crowd of people who are going for opportunities. So job postings right now, it's very common for recruiters to get absolutely inundated with postings that are posted. And if you're not one of the first 25 to apply, then it's very hard for you to essentially move on to the next step, because many recruiters, many hiring team members will essentially say, okay, we've got enough, we've got a sample size, let's see what we can work with. And usually they can find people. So it's important that you are on top of it and that you have a game plan in place, and you've got top, companies that you're targeting, so you can be notified for those opportunities when they come about. Okay. There's also something called the hidden job market, and that's essentially a bunch of jobs that are not posted because the hiring team knows that they're going to be absolutely flooded with applicants, and they'd rather go a different route to find talent, especially for those higher level jobs. They want to, look at referrals, networking. They want to, essentially go and poach talent, find talent on their own, so they can get essentially what they're looking for. And so another reason to focus on your strategy, your job search strategy, and really kind of work the back channels there is, that's another reason to do that. So just a little background there. But here's the good thing, even though it's going to be competitive, you still can be selective, and you should be selective when you are looking for opportunities, because the last thing you want to do is, find yourself in an opportunity that's not going to be leveraging your skill sets. You're not connected with the organization. You don't find value in the mission, or maybe it just doesn't resonate with you. It's, maybe the environment doesn't sync up with what you need or what you want. And so there's the chances of you being unhappy or leaving in a few months after you get the opportunity are, increased if you don't find a company that really resonates with you. That's something that you're really aligned with. Because, if you find yourself in a position where you can be aligned with an organization, you get excited about what they do, you really enjoy the environment and the atmosphere of the team, it's going to make it so much better for you as an employee. You're going to have more satisfaction in your job every single day, but you're also going to deliver at a higher rate, and you're going to make more of an impact. And all those things are going to help you throughout your career, but also in your life, because you want to make sure that you're doing something that you love with people or organizations that you love as well. So it's really a win-win for you to be a selective candidate when you're job searching. So even though things are competitive, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't shop around and really understand what kinds of opportunities you're looking for. So, like I said, the key is to figure out what kinds of with you. What are you actually looking for in your next opportunity? Right? What kinds of employers stand out to you? So the first thing you need to do is essentially make this game plan for your job search and start looking at organizations, exploring what's out there so you can see what actually resonates with you. And so there are a few ways that you can be, kind of looking for these opportunities, looking for these companies. And this is just essentially a bird's eye view of what you need to be doing in order to find incredible companies, incredible employers that really align with you. So the first thing is to go out there and explore. Research what kinds of companies are related to your interests, to your field, your location, if it's local, or whatever it is. Just go and explore what kinds of companies are out there, so you can just start seeing what is out there, because there are so many companies, there are so many organizations that we don't know about that are even in our own town. It's actually incredible. You could be driving by a building every single day, your entire life, but not know that there's an incredible company in the building that you drive by every single day. So it's important to get out there and explore, and then research what those companies are about, because something can spark an interest, or it can get you inspired, or you have some kind of connection, or something resonates with you about that organization, and that can spark a really intentional job search there. The second thing you need to do is identify themes and similarities. So once you research these companies, it's very likely that you're going to start seeing some similarities between them. So maybe they're all in the same industry. Maybe they all have similar missions. For example, I know somebody who's trying to move into solar, because it's something that's important to him. It's something that he's, passionate about getting involved with. And, so he's looking at companies that all have this in common. He wants to be a part of that mission. So it can, you're going to notice some similarities, maybe company size. Maybe you're looking for bigger companies. Maybe you really want to look for a smaller company. So identifying what themes you have between the, first few companies that are on your list, it's actually going to help you figure out and expand what types of companies that you're looking for. So you can be really intentional with your search and with what companies that you're targeting, okay? And then finally, what you're going to do is get organized and put a list together of all these great companies that stand out to you. So that way you can essentially create a checklist of companies that you're going to target in your job search. So you can be very intentional and not just go about and spray and pray is what we call it. So don't just go and apply to every single job that's out there, apply to hundreds of jobs a week with no real direction, because you're going to waste a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you're not actually going to find opportunities that are in alignment with you. And so creating this kind of bucket list, which I'll get to in a little bit, it's going to give you some direction. It's going to give you focus. It's also going to help you network your way into these targeted opportunities, which is very exciting. So building this kind of strategy, this bird's eye strategy for yourself, is going to be essential if you want to find a great next opportunity, even in this market, even with everybody going, starting to recover and get back to work. And there's a lot of competition. The strategy has worked for thousands of our Work Daily members. And I guarantee it's going to work for you as well if you do it right. So for the meat of this training, we're going to show you how to use Comparably to research these organizations. So Comparably is an amazing tool, and it's very data driven. So it's essentially like a Glassdoor where you can review and research companies and learn what they're about, learn what their culture's about, learn the ins and outs, the behind the scenes for these organizations. But there's so much more data that Comparably can offer that is just incredible to us. We love Comparably, and we're really excited to help you understand how you can leverage it so you can find these companies, find these opportunities, and really find things to, latch onto so you can start your job search on the right foot. So here are a few things that we strongly encourage that you do when you are researching organizations and while you're leveraging Comparably, what kinds of features you should be thinking about. So the first thing that you need to think about is how the company that you're pursuing stacks up against the competition. How does it stack up against other companies? Right? So you want to see, what's the bird's eye view? What do they have to offer? What's the culture like? How do people rate them? If you go to Glassdoor Comparably, you'll see that there are different ratings for companies based on, employee feedback. Comparably has a really in-depth one that it's essentially a whole tab of feedback and explaining these ratings. So I'll show you an example in a minute here, but just to kind of see what this company is doing and how employees are rating it based on their experience is going to be very powerful, because it can give you a sense on whether or not employees enjoy working there, enjoy contributing, or maybe they don't have a great rating, and that's a good sign for you, because you can say, okay, maybe this isn't an organization for me, or maybe I need to start asking some questions around why they don't have a great rating, some strategic questions there. Just because a company doesn't have an incredible score doesn't mean that they're not an incredible company. It could mean that they're working on something. So even if you see this, scores that are not, A+ or 5 stars, doesn't mean that they're a bad company, but it does mean that you need to start thinking about, okay, how can I position myself and ask some great questions so I can understand what's going on here? Maybe they're really working to improve something or some things in their organization. And that is important to me, that they're actively trying to do that. So, just to get a bird's eye view of what they're looking or what they're all about is important for you. So these are just a few examples of how you can look at that bird's eye view from a company page on Comparably. So you can see the CEO score, what the employees think about the CEO. You can see the diversity score on Comparably. So, how do employees really think about this diversity factor in the organization, gender score. So this is essentially women will actually only be able to participate in this score. So it's basically just women who are contributing to this rating, right? So you can understand that what that score looks like for an organization and comparably based on this. And obviously an overall culture score, you can see A+, 5 stars. So this is just going to give you a overview of what the employees think about certain companies. Okay, so, very important to understand. Obviously, if you go to Comparably, this is going to show on most company pages. I will put this out there that not all companies have their Comparably profiles filled out all the way. So please keep that in mind. It doesn't mean the company's not a bad company. It just means that they're getting started on Comparably. But definitely look out for the company overviews because it's going to be a really great way for you to see what the tone is like for that organization. Okay. The next thing you want to do is to figure out what employees are saying about the organization by actually reading reviews. And this is a key piece of your research. In fact, I would argue it's one of the most important things that you should be looking at and evaluating when you're researching companies. I love it when I can see a review online, especially if it's a product I'm buying. For example, if I go and I want to buy a dress or a piece of clothing, I want to see reviews. I want to see real people who are using that product or they bought that piece of clothing. So I can understand their real experience. And companies are no different. I want to understand what the employers are saying about the organization. How are they describing their experience in their own words? And that's so important so you can get a sense of what that looks like. So understanding what can be happening behind the scenes really gives you the opportunity to, understand what that culture is like, who are the players, what the leadership is like. Again, what's the tone? Are people frustrated? Are expectations not clear? Are they excited? Do they feel valued at work? What do those things look like? What does that feedback look like? And the fact that these are all anonymous reviews is very important because you do get balanced constructive criticism as well as positive feedback or reviews in terms of what employers are saying. So this is going to be very helpful in terms of, again, understanding the tone, understanding what employers are doing for their employees. How are they making them feel valued? How are they making them feel like they're contributing? How are they treating their employees? So definitely something that you're going to want to understand before getting really attached to an employer, because you're going to want to know, what are they saying? What are they doing? How are they, articulating their experience? Because if anything, this is going to give you something to a jumping off point when you're talking with employees about their experience. You can go a little bit deeper. I saw some reviews about this aspect of the organization. They're growing really fast. Can you tell me about your experience with that and what kinds of positive impacts and challenges have come about because of this massive growth? I'd love to learn more about your experience. And that's a great way to kind of have a positive, intentional conversation while you're networking your way into organizations. That's a whole different webinar, but it's definitely an important thing to hit on. So getting that behind scenes look, paying attention to the positive feedback and the concerns, but also understanding, what can you do with this information and what kinds of tactful questions can you ask during your networking conversations. So here's an example of Comparably's review section on the pages. So what I love about Comparably is that they have both positive versions of a question, but also constructive versions. So in this case, you can see, what do you like best about the leadership team? And so people are, answering, this is what I really love about the leadership team. But also on the other side, what can the leadership do to improve? So giving some constructive feedback there is also important. But notice it's not just negative, right? It's constructive. And I love that you get both sides of the story in this case, because it really does give you a more balanced view. Okay. And so that's one thing that Comparably does really well, in my opinion. And so I think you should absolutely leverage that when you're looking for, companies that to pursue in your job search. So speaking of leadership, you want to understand what that leadership is like. Who are the big players in the organization? Who has the final say? Who sets the tone for the organization? What does that leadership look like? And this is important because everything trickles down, right? So, if the company culture is essentially set, the tone is defined by the leadership. And so you're going to want to understand how they operate and what kind of a tone do they set in the organizations, if you can. So in order to learn about the leadership team, you need to understand what employees think. Again, this is really all employee driven for the most part when it comes to Comparably, which is so nice because you can really get that, again, behind the scenes look and understanding how leadership operates. What are their habits, attitudes, approaches, like we just looked at. What do they do well? What do they need to improve? This is something that's going to be very important to you because it trickles down to the entire team and it sets the tone. It could be a positive, wonderful environment, but it also can be a toxic, stressful environment if the wrong leadership or the wrong leaders are in play there. So it's important to have a good understanding of what that looks like before you really invest your time in the organization or accept an opportunity there, because it can really define your experience. Now, here's an example of what you can look at and leverage on Comparably in order to understand more about the leadership. And this is just a little screenshot of a whole page. There's a whole tab on Comparably for companies, and they can really go into more depth around the leaders in the organization. In this particular example for Peloton, you can see that they have a manager rating. And so what employees, what the average employee says about their management. And this is something that we talk about so much in Work It Daily, especially when you're looking at incredible companies. How do you look at the reviews and see that there's, questions or concerns or positive feedback about management? And how do you navigate that in your job search? So, for example, if you see a company that clearly it's growing really fast and they're having this awkward growing pain of middle management, and you just see a bunch of reviews around the struggles, but you don't really understand where that's coming from, and you want to learn more, Comparably has a great that page to show you a little bit more in depth what you can see about the leadership, what kinds of things you should be asking about. So I love this. I love that you can see what employees are saying about the management so you can get a better sense of what that looks like. All right. Obviously, the environment is important and you need to know what that looks like before you really dive into an organization and apply, because the thing is, if you are in the wrong environment for you, it's not matching up with your needs or wants or strengths or struggles, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to perform and provide impact and make impact at an organization. So you need to understand, who's working there. What do people think about working there? Is the company focused on diversity, inclusion? Is that important to you? Understanding what kinds of factors go into that environment is going to allow you to set the expectation, but also to understand what you're stepping into. And so that's going to be incredibly important as you do your research here. So diving deeper into the culture, understanding that it really is more important than you think, and it's more important to employers now than ever, because if you bring in the wrong teammates, it can totally mess up the dynamic on teams and cause some toxicity. And so they're going to be focused on culture fit. They're going to be focused on whether or not you mesh with the environment and the culture there. And so you should absolutely be thinking about it as well, because if it's not meshing with you, if it's not something that you can see yourself thriving in, then it's going to be something that you're going to want to seriously consider, because you're not going to be able to make the impacts that you would make, and you're not going to be as happy. And so understanding what that environment looks like through questions, through your research, behind the scenes. I love that so many companies are being very open and branding their environments through employer branding on Instagram, on their websites, so you can really see what employers are saying, what they're doing, images, so you can really understand what that looks like to give you a better sense of what to expect. Now, Comparably also has a whole culture page for organizations. So they have the opportunity to collect this data from their employees. And so you can see the overall culture score for Facebook, A+, 79 out of 100. And this is, again, just a little snippet of an entire page of data. But it's a great way for you to get a little bit deeper in terms of what are those employees actually saying? And, how is the culture being defined by those employees? How are they articulating that? How are they expressing what that environment is like? And, how does that translate for you? So Comparably definitely has some great data around this, so you can get a better understanding of what that looks like. Now, obviously this one's important, but understanding what to expect during interviews. If you can, getting the expectation, understanding a little bit more about what you're going to be doing, what that process looks like before the interview comes about, then it's going to help you really prepare well, but also set the expectation. Maybe this company has a longer hiring process. Maybe they have a lot of interviews. Maybe it's on the flip side, and maybe they have a very short hiring process. Maybe they only do one interview and call it good. But understanding the expectation, understanding other people's experiences is going to help you prepare, but also feel more confident going into the process, because when you know what to expect, it's going to be a lot easier for you. Now, you want to be doing this, again, for all those reasons that I just mentioned. Understanding what to expect can, it can make you feel more calm, because you're going to be more prepared. I always say you're the most confident when you're comfortable, because you really don't have to worry about, what if something happens? If I'm confident in what I'm doing, if I am feeling comfortable around, this setup, if I know what to expect, I'm going to deliver. I'm going to have a better interview. I'm going to perform better in interviews, and I'm going to connect better, because I'm really going into it with a level head. If you don't know what to expect, then it makes you nervous. It makes you feel like you're going to be caught off guard. And so the more that you can prepare, the better. And so understanding what people have done, understanding their experiences is going to be very important in terms of standing out during the interview process, because when you're comfortable, you're confident. And when you understand what to expect, you're going to perform better during those interviews. Okay, it can really help you overcome those nerves. And Comparably, I love this page. Again, just a snippet of the data that you can get on a Comparably company page in terms of the interview process. So as you can see, employees rate the interview process in general. They explain, like, did they feel prepared? The more information around the application process, the interview process, how many interviews that they had to go through. So again, it makes you feel more confident in yourself, because you're going to understand exactly what's going to happen. And so understanding what the interview experience is like, how they got their interview, how difficult it was based on their experience, how long it took to hear back. This is a huge thing that we, hear about from job seekers, being frustrated around not having expectations around follow-ups or when they hear back. So this is important information. Again, how many interviews? So this is, again, just a snippet of a whole page that you can find on a Comparably company page that you should be looking at when you're researching organizations. Okay, salary expectations. Understanding the relevant salary expectations and the ranges that you should be expecting is also important, because this is typically something, especially if you're going for a larger organization, maybe they have a set budget for the position, they're going to want to know either on the application or in the first phone screening. So, having something to go off of, having your salary ready to go, your range ready to go before you go into the interview process is absolutely critical. Even though we don't recommend that you bring this up in the first interview, we do think that it's very important that you are prepared to answer this, because the last thing you want to do is be asked, what are your salary expectations, and not have an answer, or worse, have an answer that's not in alignment with what they're expecting or what the market rate is, because you can either undersell yourself or outprice yourself and totally ruin your chances at moving forward. So understanding the ranges is going to be critical in the job search process. Okay, so, if you find yourself in this situation and you don't understand what that looks like, if you don't understand what types of ranges are in alignment with the opportunities that you're going for at certain organizations, it's going to really throw you off your game. It's not going to help you market yourself, and it's not going to allow you to know your worth in this situation. And so knowing that is going to, again, give you more confidence, because you don't have to worry about, what if I answered this poorly? What if I didn't, what if I wasn't in alignment with the market rate or what they were expecting? Did I undersell myself? Am I cutting myself short? Or did I outprice myself? Are they going to eliminate me because I'm going to be too expensive? Understanding what those ranges look like before is going to be absolutely, it's critical in order to stand out and get through the process and show them that you are, you do know your worth, and you do know the market rate, and that you're in alignment with that. And thankfully, Comparably does have a great salary tool. I've been messing around with it the last few days, but it's so in depth. You can learn so much about, the industry, the types of job, where it's located. So you can really get a sense of what the market rate is for your specific opportunities in your specific location, which is key, because your salary range is going to be different if you're in Boston than you are in Indiana. It's going to be very different in terms of what to expect. And so you want to make sure that you're really tailoring that range as much as you can. So that way, again, you're not underselling yourself, but you're not outpricing yourself. And this tool that Comparably has is so helpful and has so much data that you can use, so you feel confident giving your answer when they ask you about your salary expectations. And you can say, based on the market rate, I'm expecting this range, between this range and this range, for this type of an opportunity. And that way you're going to be confident, and you're going to feel more comfortable, as we just talked about, when you go into those interviews. So important. All right. Company recognition, another thing that you need to understand when you are researching companies. Where are they being recognized? What kinds of awards have they won? What kind of, where are they in the press? Are they in the press at all? How are they being recognized? Because this is going to help you understand where they want to add value and where they want to position themselves. So understanding, do they win awards for, best workplace? Do they win awards for diversity and inclusion? Is that important to you? You're going to want to do that research. What are they doing that's impactful in the world or in their organization that leads to great press? You want to be looking at the news. You want to be looking at where they are showing up, so you can learn about what are they doing? Where are they spending their time? Where are they trying to be recognized? And why? And this is going to be helpful in terms of just understanding what that's all about, but it's also going to be important when it comes to networking with people, because you can say, hey, I noticed that, your company, won this award. That's so cool. Can you tell me more about your experience, or can you tell me more about it? Or I noticed that your company was in the news lately for this. I'd love to learn more about what that's all about. Why is it a priority? Why this initiative? Why now? Great icebreaker, really intentional, and also super timely. And so this is going to be very important, and Comparably has an entire page dedicated to awards, where they're showing up in the press, based on awards, so that way you can get a sense of what this company is being recognized for. Okay, where are they investing time and energy and resources to make themselves a great company to work for, right? So this is going to be very important when it comes to your research. All right. So finally, the last thing that you really want to look into when you are researching organizations is to understand what's expected of the team. What's expected of the employees when they get there? What do they need to do? What's the tone? Again, it's all about the tone, so you can really see what that's like. And so understanding the onboarding process, getting clear on expectations early, it's going to help you understand, what they need from you and what they want from you, and generally just their entire team. What are they looking for in their candidates? What are they looking for in their talent and their team? Like I mentioned earlier, if you bring in the wrong teammate, or they don't understand the expectation, or they don't mesh with the environment, it can throw the entire dynamic off and completely change the makeup of a team. And so it's important to really understand what's expected of you, so you can jump in and start delivering. It's also going to help you understand where you need to be focusing on when you're in the interview process or even just applying. How are you going to market yourself for this opportunity? If you know what to expect, if you know what they want and need from their next hire, then you can position yourself to explain that this is how you add value. It's relevant to them because of this, right? It's going to allow you to essentially show them that you know what they need and you know what they want, and you're ready to dive in with both feet, right? And really get started because you know exactly what to expect and you know how to add value in that environment. And this is a huge advantage for you as a candidate because it's going to allow you to market yourself very intentionally for these opportunities. So again, another snippet of a comparably page where you can see, what that's like. How often do you get feedback from your manager? Does your boss, expect you to work on vacation? Just some insights in terms of like the employee experience and from a growth standpoint and from an onboarding standpoint, what can you do in order to position yourself? Is this the type of environment you're looking for? Does this align with your wants and your needs? Okay. So again, just a few things you can learn. How often do people hear back from management or get feedback from management rather? Do people feel comfortable sharing negative feedback with their management team? Are people expected to work on vacation? Why do people want to stay at the organization? Again, this is something that, if you see people really aligned with the mission, you're going to have a lot of passionate people in this organization. And so this is something to pay attention to. Obviously, do people socialize at work? Are they connected or are they not so connected? They feel kind of isolated. This is all great information to understand before you go into this process so you can really, again, set the expectation and market yourself effectively for these opportunities. Okay, so I know that was a ton of information, but hopefully that showed you how and where you can leverage comparably to do some research on these companies that you're interested in, okay? It's going to really allow you to, again, understand the tone of the organization, what they want, what they need from new employees, and also figure out what you're aligned with and what you want and what you need, because you can be and you should be selective as a job search candidate, because otherwise you're going to set yourself in an opportunity that's not necessarily what you want, and you're going to be job searching again faster than you think. So those are a few strategies in terms of leveraging comparably. Now, I briefly want to share some coaching strategies, some big picture strategies that will help you be super strategic when you're coming to, you found your companies. Now, what do you do with them? So here are some ways that you can be super strategic when you are really getting into your job search. Okay, so the first one, and I mentioned this briefly in the beginning, but build a bucket list. So you've started to explore these companies on Comparably, and you figure out some companies that really stood out to you. Great. Now it's time to get organized and put those companies into a list. So that way, it's essentially your blueprint in terms of what companies to pursue. So you're spending your time in the right areas, okay? You're not just going off and applying to every job that you see. If you really want to work for these companies, it's important to focus your efforts on these organizations, okay? So pulling that list together is going to be important. It's going to give you a game plan. It's going to allow you to be more effective and efficient in your job search because, again, you're not going everywhere. You're really honing in your efforts on these particular organizations, okay? Because otherwise, you're going to find yourself wasting a lot of time, energy, and you're just going to get frustrated because when you're applying all over the place, it feels like you're not really, being intentional with your time. And I hear stories all the time of, members from Work Daily. Before they come to us, they tell us that they applied 100 jobs a week. They don't look at the companies beforehand. Maybe they found themselves in an organization that they hated after getting a job there because they didn't actually put in the time, the research, or they didn't even get noticed in the hiring process because they weren't focusing their efforts on those organizations. They weren't figuring out who they needed to talk to in those organizations in order to stand out and get through the application process. It's so competitive. So understanding what that looks like, making a list for yourself is going to be very important in your job search, okay? So some things to consider here. Think about the companies that inspire you or, they offer products, services that you already love. Or, there's something about them that resonates with you, something aligns with you. Maybe they're on a mission to do something that really you're really passionate about or you want to be a part of. Like I said, my friend who's looking to make a career change into, a solar opportunity, right? He realized that this is something that resonates with him. He wants to be a part of this mission and make an impact in something that he cares about. And so he's intentionally focusing on organizations in this area. Okay. And also, I want to mention that you shouldn't shy away from organizations that are not hiring right now or are hiring for your skill set right now, because like I mentioned earlier, they could be hiring, but they might not post the jobs because they don't want to get absolutely inundated with candidates. They want to be selective. They want to make sure they're finding the right person for the team. Again, the wrong person can throw off the entire dynamic. So certain organizations are going to be very selective with the talent that they choose to bring in. And so even more reason to figure out that list of companies, start talking to people within those companies. So that way, when an opportunity arises that aligns with your skill sets, they might be able to pass it on to you or recommend you for the opportunity. And that's going to be essential when it comes to standing out, especially for those super competitive organizations, what everyone wants to apply for. Okay. Second thing, don't just tell them that you're incredible, show them. So this comes down to your marketing. All right. So you can't just tell somebody that you are great, that you're amazing. You have to show them. You have to demonstrate. So unfortunately, too many people make the unfortunate mistake of just telling people that they're great. I'm an exceptional leader. I'm an excellent team player, but not actually showing them through results. So if you just imagine walking up to a stranger on the street and just saying, hello, I can be a great friend. And, I think I'm going to be an exceptional friend, or I am an exceptional friend, and I'm an excellent team player, and I think we should be friends. That's going to put off a weird vibe. It's not going to make you look, it's going to make you look the other way and want to get out of there because that person, maybe looks needy or desperate or arrogant or awkward, whatever it is. Now, if you think about how the traditional marketing of yourself as a candidate, a lot of people do have exceptional leader, exceptional team player, and that's how they essentially introduce themselves on their resume. And so it's very similar to that, drastic, example there. But that's not how you tell somebody that you're amazing. You need to show them. You need to demonstrate. Otherwise, they're just going to see this, text that they see in every other resume, or they're going to think that you, unfortunately are, a little bit self-important because that's how you're describing yourself. And it's unfortunate because it really comes down to a lot of people just not knowing how to market themselves and demonstrating why they're going to be great candidates as opposed to telling someone that they're going to be a great candidate. So some things to consider here. So first off, 87% of employers struggle to find candidates with the right skills. So keep that in mind. And it's important to know this because unfortunately, a lot of candidates, like I said, don't know how to brand themselves. They don't know how to brand their skill sets. They don't know how to brand the impacts that they've made at other opportunities. So these employers can be looking at great candidates, or they could have great candidates apply for their positions. But if they're not marketing the right skill sets and they're not marketing how they've added value, or they're not demonstrating why they're going to be an asset, then those employers aren't going to recognize that because they're not going to see it. They're just going to see all the adjectives. So a few things you need to do here is, work on your branding strategy, on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, your cover letter, really playing up those skills, the relevant experience, the accomplishments, certifications, any way to kind of boost and demonstrate that you have the skill sets, you specialize in this area, and that you've added value in the past in this area. So important when it comes to branding yourself for opportunities. So a few things, defining your area of expertise. So on your resume, you should have a headline that defines where you add value as opposed to a big, dense summary. Okay, because it's just going to sound, again, self-important a lot of the time. So, for example, having a headline saying digital marketing strategist is going to immediately tell me, the recruiter or the hiring manager, where this candidate adds value. Okay, now, if I was looking at a paragraph, a summary that started with exceptional leader and team player with so many years of experience in this industry and yada, 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 That's something I've seen over and over again, but it doesn't really tell me, specifically where this person adds value. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do to brand yourself. The second thing is to showcase your relevant hard skill sets and experience for the job. So focusing on what your relevant skills are for this opportunity, so it makes it easier for them to see your value, is going to be absolutely critical. So that way they can see you do have the right skill sets. I am looking at a candidate who matches up with the skill sets I need for this position. And so this is going to be an important branding piece as well. And then from there, you need to show them how you've added value in the past. What kinds of results have you gotten using these skill sets in the past? And so show them what you've accomplished by sharing quantifiable accomplishments in your work history in the bullet point section. Okay. Prove your worth with numbers, not adjectives. Okay. Very important when it comes to standing out here. All right. The final thing is to talk to the employees. I think I have mentioned this, I've really kind of driven this point home, but I can't tell you how important it is to really get a sense of what they have to say, what their experience has been in organizations, because there's nothing better than getting it from the person who's in it every single day, getting the insights from that person who's sitting at the desk, who's talking with the team, who's a part of these projects, a part of the initiatives. It's something that you need to have, because even though companies can have amazing employee brands, can promote all the great stuff, there's nothing better than actually getting real feedback, real, insights from employees. Okay, so making sure that you do that's going to be essential. So, incredible companies draw incredible candidates, but it is hard to stand out. And so when you just apply online, you're not being seen by a lot of people. And so it's important to actually connect with employees and talk with them and introduce yourself, so that way they can understand what you're about and they can potentially see you as a teammate in the future, right? If you can connect with them, if you can learn more about the organizations and they can learn more about you, what a great intentional networking relationship there that can potentially lead to more opportunities. So some things to consider here. Focus on that targeted networking strategy, making sure that you're following your bucket list with the companies and connecting with people from those organizations. So my favorite way to do this is to go on LinkedIn and find these companies and then connect with 2 or 3 people from those organizations on LinkedIn. And put in a little note when you're connecting saying, hey there, we haven't met, but I'm a huge fan of your organization. And I'd love to learn more about your experience there. I noticed that you work there and I'd love to learn more about your experience. Can we connect? What a great friendly way to approach somebody to learn more about their experience, right? It's a great icebreaker. And then once they connect, you jump off of that and you say, thank you so much for connecting. I really appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, I'm super drawn to your organization. I think it's an incredible company, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about your experience as an employee there. What do you love most about working there? Or, what led you to this organization? Or what surprised you about this organization when you first joined? Things like that can be great conversation starters, but also lead to more intentional networking conversations that can ultimately lead to, you finding a job at this organization. So this is going to give you a great opportunity to uncover, what that company is all about, make great networking connections that can lead to more. And so important when it comes to job search. One of the most important things you can do when it comes to standing out. All right. So I know that was a ton of information, and, I hope that you understand how to leverage Comparably in a way that will allow you to set yourself up for success so you can be more effective and efficient in your job search when it comes to finding the right companies. But I totally understand there's a lot of information shared today. And if you're so overwhelmed, if you feel overwhelmed in your job search, you don't know where to start, or you feel like you need a coach to help you out in this case, we can help. Work It Daily can help. That is our job. We help people navigate the hiring process, brand themselves for success so they can find incredible opportunities at incredible companies. So like I mentioned earlier, we are a virtual career coaching service, and we've helped thousands of people land incredible jobs, whether they're long-term unemployed, they're returning from the workforce after taking a break. making a career change, or, if they're facing age discrimination. We deal with it all. And so we really pride ourselves on being the most accessible and affordable service out there when it comes to career coaching, because we truly believe that everyone should have a career coach, right? Not just the elite, because this is something, again, that we were never taught how to do, yet we all have to do it. And so this is something that we totally geek out on. We love it, and we love helping people navigate their job searches and ultimately, succeed in their careers. And so this is something that we love doing. And because you joined me today for this session, we wanted to share a great kind of deal on one of our packages. So if you need help with your resume, if you think your LinkedIn profile is lacking, then you should check this out. We actually have a resume and LinkedIn review package on Work It Daily. And essentially what happens is you sign up and you submit your resume and your LinkedIn profile. You get it reviewed in detail through a video by one of our trained coaches. And we essentially go through and tell you exactly what needs to change in terms of formatting, in terms of content. You will understand how to present yourself. You'll understand, how a recruiter will view your resume, your LinkedIn profile, how a career coach will view this, but also how the technology will review or view your materials as well. So when you're applying online, something that a lot of people don't realize is that you need to make sure that you have the most relevant keywords and information. Otherwise, you can get miscategorized in, their filtering technology, their applicant technology. It's called the ATS, applicant tracking system. So if you don't have the right information showcased on your materials, it's going to be very hard for you to get through. And so we can tell you what needs to be changed in terms of formatting and content to increase your chances of getting through, but also coach you on what you should be doing to brand yourself through this process so you can be noticed by actual human recruiters and hiring team managers. So you'll get a whole video reviewing everything, pinpointing all that information, showing you exactly what needs to be changed, what you're doing well, and what needs to be improved. And so it's a huge value. You get a response in 2 business days from our coaches, and it's something that people have really loved to kick off their job search. So definitely take advantage of this. If you use coupon code comparably30, you'll save $30 on this. So this is retail $79. And so with the save 30, offer here today, you'll actually get it for $49, which is a huge, huge value here. But the only catch is that it's only 24 hours for this offer. So definitely take action now if this is something that you are interested in, is something that you need. Okay. All right. So with that, I want to take a few questions because I know, again, we covered a lot today. So hopefully it was valuable. But if you have any questions, please let me know in the chat. Now, as you're getting your questions ready, I did just want to reiterate how important it is to get your materials in order, because it's the first step to your job search. Okay, it's the first thing that you have to get noticed when it comes to applying for opportunities. So if you're not representing yourself well, if you're not branding yourself well, it's gonna be a lot harder for you to get through that process. And so making sure that you're really focusing on a marketing strategy for yourself as a candidate. We actually call you a business of one at Work It Daily because you're marketing a business and you're providing a service to an employer, right? When you're an employee, you are providing a service to an employer, and that's what you're getting paid for. And so every business needs a marketing plan. And that's what we help with. And so I can't tell you how important it is and, how it really can change your job search, drastically. So definitely consider that. All right. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm not seeing too many questions here today. I know it's a lot of information, so totally get that. I did want to remind you that you have access to this for 7 days, this recording. So you can always go back in the next week to review the strategies, techniques, and amazing features that Comparably has to offer when it comes to researching companies and changing up your search. So that way you can start getting some results. I also did include, you will get access to the slides here today. I did include some additional resources for you that we mentioned, even some that we didn't mention in terms of comparably, so that way you can really leverage that, but also see some of the examples that I pulled here today from HubSpot, Facebook, Peloton, some of those companies that I showcased today, so you can really get a sense of what the functionality Comparably has to offer, the features that they have to offer in terms of researching great organizations. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope it was helpful. And yes, thanks again. Definitely check out the recording, and I hope to see you in Work It Daily. Thanks so much.